Open your mouth. Spread your legs. Clear. Let's go.
What up, people? What's up, man? As you can see, man, I got that Canadian, you know what I mean? Right here with the cat. Nice joint. There's a male. You can tell by the peak. It's all big and all that. This how you know is a male. Anyway, with that being said, man, I'm having a good time, man. Today we got Jaime Santana in the building. Jaime Santana is a lawyer, an attorney in New York City. He also was a judge in Orange County. He also was a district attorney in Brooklyn. And today he's an attorney. And with that being said, we got him here in our show today. And with that being said, I want to welcome Jaime Santana, Dog in the Yard, your boy Pistol. What up? You already know it's your boy Pistol Pete. Welcome back to Dog in the Yard. Today we got a special guest, my brother, man, Jaime Santana. You know what I mean? At this point, he's my brother. We became, we talked to each other ever since we met from last prior. He was supposed to have been on a prior episode a while back, and it didn't happen. Information wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things changed, and he wanted to make sure he was good. So today we got him back, and ever since we talked, we got to kick it to each other, and build a relationship. You know what I'm saying? And he's a great guy, man. He got a guy. He's been around for a while. Just for you guys to know, Santana. He was a district attorney in Brooklyn. He's been a judge in Orange County, I believe.
Yep.
And now he's an attorney in New York City. So he's super focused. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to his son, man, going to law school. So.
Yes, Julian.
That's right. Shout him out, because that's big. What's up, brother? How you been,
What's up,
man?
brother? Pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming, man.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
you,
me,
man.
bro.
Word.
Appreciate you too, man.
So what's up, Santana? You busy?
I'm good, man. I'm busy, blessed. I'm grateful, appreciative of family and clients. It's going well, man. It's going well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any big cases, any big things you got going on?
There's always, Pete, there's always something big going on. I do a lot of, aside from the criminal defense, I was telling you, we do a lot of high-profile civil rights. So a lot of the wrongful death cases, police shootings, things of that nature, out of state as well. So I'm traveling a lot. I stay busy fighting a good fight, whether it's trying to pursue criminal liability or civil liability. And then, of course, defending people who are accused of crimes, man. That's what I do. Yeah.
So how you managed to tell us a little bit about your background, where you from, and how you wound up in Orange County as a judge.
Right.
A little bit, for they can see who you are.
Yeah, of course. So born and raised in the Bronx, New York.
Okay, BX. Okay.
Yes, absolutely proud of it. Over by Castle Hill Avenue.
Okay.
Homestead in Lacombe. Third generation Puerto Rican American. Proud of it. After leaving the Bronx, I wanted a different life. Became a father. Found myself living in Orange County. And then after being in Orange County for some time, I was tapped for the position of judge. Honestly, Pete, it wasn't even on my mind. I did not think about becoming a judge, but I said, you know what? Maybe this is an opportunity that will allow me to make a difference. And I was able to do that. I became the first Latino judge in Orange County.
Okay.
And I tell people, Pete, the robe didn't mean anything to me as far as, thinking I'm better or bragging. No, you know what meant something to me? The fact that I had an opportunity to make a difference, Pete. And when my children were able to watch me, Dad, be sworn in as a judge, that's what mattered to me. And then being able to make a difference from the bench, not tossing people in jail right away, but maybe looking at their record, trying to determine why this individual is committing crimes, maybe putting them in a program. And, when I would have people approach me thanking me for how I treated them or their loved ones, Pete, that's what mattered to me. That's what mattered to me. So I did that for a little while, left Orange County, moved to Rockland County, New York. My house is full, Pete. So at home I have, of course, my beautiful wife. She's retired law enforcement.
Okay.
And then we have at home we have the 22-year-old son. That's the one that's going to law school next semester. And then we have our 16-year-old who's going into senior year in high school, and then we have our 15-year-old and 14-year-old girl. So, and then the dog is female too. So my dog looks at me, Pete, like, you already know.
You got only a few words in this house.
Yeah, man. I stay either I'm in the gym or the home office or I'm playing golf, Pete. That's cool, that's how I try to relax and have.
I love big families,
balance
man.
in my life.
I think it's a blessing to be in the house. Yeah. Just a whole full house like that. It just
brother, it's never a dull moment. And I let my wife take over a lot of the things that have to do with the young ladies in the house, because there's just certain dynamics that we as men may not be able to understand or relate to. So sometimes it's hard. I have my moments.
Yeah.
But we're a good team. We're a great team. So and then Pete, aside from that, man, I'm ripping and running. I'm in courts, traveling sometimes, as I mentioned. Doing what I have to do for my clients.
So I asked Santana, like you guys know, right? He's an attorney of New York City. To come up here, there's a lot of things that we, the youth, and not only the youth, but us as civilians in the street, because I don't know most of the new laws and, some of the things that I should know. You know what I mean? So I was like, Santana, come up here, and drop that G, on us. So like that, we could enlighten the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those out there that need it. You know what I'm saying? So, I know that we probably talked to about, the federal law, 924C.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I want you to build on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Break that down, for those individuals, that never don't know what the hell I'm saying, 924C, what Pete's talking about.
Yeah. Pete, it's an interesting part of the federal criminal code. 924C, for the most part, we're talking about mandatory sentencing, consecutive sentencing enhancement. And it's a very confusing code for most. Even we attorneys get very frustrated over the application of it by courts and judges. But 924C is basically saying if you have a charge involving the carrying or use of a firearm during the commission of a violent crime, or you are in possession of it in furtherance of that violent crime, then you are exposed to mandatory consecutive sentencing enhancement. And that's a scary thing. So that's 924C. Then they go on to define, okay, well, what's a violent crime, right? Because you can't just, as a court, spit out these words and legal terminologies and not really define what they mean. So then they go into defining what a crime of violence is by way of a 924C3 now. And so now they say, this is the thing, Pete, any felony that's a federal crime, like literally any of them that encompasses either the use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force in connection to that crime. Now, if you think about it, I mean, that could entail almost anything, right? Because you're talking about, okay, well, I didn't use it. Okay, I didn't attempt to use it. But wait, in furtherance of? So what does that mean? And Pete, that's where the confusion comes in. So now we have the Delegati case, hot case right now, pending in the Supreme Court. And the question is exactly that, because the argument that Delegati's making is that, hey, listen, I'm being accused of making an arrangement, okay, that led to the attempted murder of an individual, but I wasn't the one who actually attempted to kill that individual. So how are you charging me under this theory of categorical application is what they're talking about, right? The categorical approach is what they're saying. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit as best as possible because it's crazy, Pete. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's confusing.
Well, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's like, it's
you
crazy.
almost went like,
Yeah. So when our Supreme Court is saying is this whole categorical approach, basically they're saying, in a nutshell, they're saying we're not looking to your acts, okay? We're looking to the elements of the conviction in and of itself. And that's a problem. This is why people, are trying to file a writ, which is how you get to the Supreme Court. I'll cover that briefly. But it's a problem because the Supreme Court is throwing all this stuff out and people are saying, well, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. But the crazy part about it, Pete, is that you have individuals who are facing these crimes, like Delegati. He was originally indicted on conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering related matters, and also of criminally possessing. This is how this is all relevant. Criminally possessing a firearm. But the crazy part is that even the government has submitted a brief to the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in our land, right? You got a Court of Appeals and then Supreme Court. And the government is saying, you know what, we want this conviction to stand, but we need clarification on this. And that doesn't happen often, Pete. It's not often where you have the government on a federal level agreeing in terms of submitting a brief because they need clarification on an issue.
crazy.
And Pete, just so your viewers or listeners know, it is extremely hard to get a case heard by the U.S. Supreme Court. They receive anywhere between 7,000 to 7,500 applications or writs of certiorari, as we know them to be. You know how many they accept? No more than 150 a year. This is the reason appeals take a long time.
Damn.
Imagine
150,
that. No more than 150 you typically see. We have 9 justices in the Supreme Court. We got 1 Chief Justice, Justice Robert. So this takes a long time, and it's a very, very lengthy process, and it's never a guarantee. But, there's only 2 ways you can get in. You have to assert something different that was not already argued, or you have to have at least, multiple Court of Appeals courts who have come out with these opinions that are saying 2 different things.
Right.
So that gives, one of those 2 things gives the Supreme Court a basis to say, okay, there's something serious going on here. We need to review this.
Right.
And it's a crazy, convoluted, very, very confusing thing, Pete. It really is. But that case is pending. We're gonna have to wait to see what happens.
And how long would it take before they'll know? How long would they have to answer?
Man, right now, the last I heard was that it's just pending. I don't know exactly what stage it's in, so I can't say for certain, but it's just pending right now. Remember, they're doing this approximately 150 times, right? So there's no way of definitively knowing how long it's going to take a court. But as you can imagine, I presume there are a lot of individuals charged with certain crimes, and where they applied this categorical approach, and they're hoping the Supreme Court is going to say, this doesn't make any sense, it's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is going to trickle down and have an effect on future cases and potentially existing cases.
Yeah, cases that are pending right now.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation, Pete. But imagine, just that explanation sounded crazy, right? So imagine being someone charged with the crime, and if you don't have an excellent attorney who's taking the time out to explain this to you, it can be a very, very frustrating thing. Not to mention there's a significant impact on the family members, right, who are charged. The family members, those are the the individuals we really don't see suffering. You know what I mean?
It's just crazy when things is like not clear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When it's not clear, it's like it's frustrating to everybody.
Yep, 100%.
Everybody frustrated over it.
Extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
Extremely frustrating.
I want to talk a little bit about the rights as far as smoking and where you could, as far as could you smoke and drive if you get caught, like any anything like that, like, because I like to know myself.
Yeah. Right.
But when you drive and could you smoke and could you go to jail, or like what's
I'm glad you brought
how
that up.
much weed could you have?
So the main change is 3 ounces or more, right? You and if it's for personal use, right? You can't get too crazy with it, right? But I'm glad you asked that question. I recently had a case involving the use of marijuana. And this was what happened. My guy was driving his car. It's 100% true story, no exaggeration. My client was driving his car with his girlfriend as a passenger. He got into a car accident, and she died. Everything was okay at the beginning in terms of, people just thinking it was just a regular car accident, an unfortunate, event. But what happened was he was taken to the hospital, and then they subsequently did a blood test, and the blood test revealed marijuana in his system. Now, why did that become relevant? Because the minute the DA's office found that out, they charged him with vehicular homicide. Why? So, if you're stopped and the cops say you're driving while under the influence, you blow into a breathalyzer, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're above a 0.08, you're driving illegally, right? Science has not caught up to marijuana in that sense. There's no test. You can't blow in and it registers. They don't know. Mm-hmm. So what New York State says is any level of marijuana in your system, you can be charged with, as in my client's case, vehicular homicide. And that's a problem. It's a problem because most people I talk to about this, they don't know, and they say, yo, Santana, but I'm saying, if I smoked 30 days ago, 20 days ago, you mean to tell me
it's still in your system?
And I tell them, listen, the law is any level in your system. So Pete, when you ask me, can you smoke and drive? I tell people, listen, you're gonna smoke and drive if you're thinking, well, I legally I started smoking, okay, when I possessed it, but now you're getting into a car, you are introducing and exposing yourself to a whole different set of dynamics. Because maybe you get into a car accident, Pete, maybe someone doesn't die.
That's what I was gonna say. The only how could they just take your blood? It's only if you get into an accident.
Right, but the thing is, you never know. Now I get it. I get it, right? I get it. The example I gave you was an extreme example. Most people are not getting into a car accident and then someone's dying in a car accident. But of course, I have to share with your viewers potential worst case scenarios.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right? And we went to trial. I had to bring in a toxicologist and experts. And Pete, fortunately for my client, he got off of that charge. But when I say it was a battle, it was a battle. We went to war. It was at least that trial lasted about a month. And it was expert after expert. They were trying to hang my guy. And I understood, this was a good kid who was probably just smoking some weed, kind of casually. And you would never think that would happen. But it happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
and
just something.
It happens quick.
Yeah, man. Listen, Pete, things can change quickly. It's just, something for people to really think about.
So, say if you're driving and they pull you over and smell weed and you smoking a joint.
Yeah. So before
How about that?
Before they changed the law, cops used to be able to say, I smell weed. What should happen is that should not be a basis for an automatic car stop, or at least telling the individual to get out the car. Because it was really easy for a cop to say, well, I smell weed, get out the car.
That's just the excuse right there. Early.
Excuse automatically. And,
Man, get out the car, smell weed.
And even before that, it's supposed to be maybe some sort of a traffic violation. Maybe they're going to say you had dark tints. And so they stop you. You roll down the window, and what happens? I smell weed.
Yeah.
Now they're getting you out the car. Why? Because in New York State, it used to be, it still is, but in terms of their excuse, they would just be able to say, I smell weed. Now that gives them a basis to search the entire car. Why? Because they're allowed to search anywhere they believe there could be additional weed found, right? But now, we defense attorneys, we argue, whoa, what do you mean? You smell weed. So what? It's legal now.
Yeah.
Now they look for another reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're constantly fighting the good fight. Constantly. So what I tell people is, look, If you're gonna do your thing, do your thing. I don't judge people. On my job, I don't judge. I'm here to help and represent. But of course, I just say be careful and try to be as smart as possible in terms of how you move about your business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't get smoking driving, basically.
Yeah, like don't ask for it. I mean, I'm seeing people, driving by cops, smoking weed.
Yeah, that's a little,
walking by cops, smoking weed. It's
like, I know some guys like that. I'd be like, yo, my man, load this shit down. Hello.
Yeah, I'm just saying, try your best not to put yourself in a position where you're giving the cops, whether they're right or wrong, to just start messing with you. Like, don't do that. You know what I mean? You know whether or not you're, intentionally trying to instigate a situation.
That's true.
Right? I'd rather you not have to call me and say, Santana, I have a problem now. I'd rather you be as safe as possible because cops are stopping you, and now that may escalate into something else, right? Mm-hmm. Now there's harassment. Now maybe there's physical abuse, and God forbid, maybe now you're being choked out by police officers.
Yes.
Right? And now your family's at your funeral, right? Yeah. This is how things can escalate. Mm-hmm. So they just need to keep things like that in mind, Pete.
I wanted to ask, do you deal with a lot of mental health problems? A lot of guys with mental health clients?
Absolutely. And it's a very, very delicate situation. Yeah. The first thing is that when there's a street encounter between a potential client or someone who becomes a client and a cop, officers should be trained to be able to recognize when someone's when someone's going through a mental health crisis. Yeah. You're supposed to recognize that. You're supposed to call in the proper individuals if you don't have that training. But Pete, it doesn't happen often. What happens is you have sometimes officers reacting and treating the individual as if they don't have a mental health problem. And so what happens now when I get the case? When I get the case, now I'm trying to, in many instances, undo a lot of damage that has been done.
Right.
So in terms of having clients with mental health crisis, 100%. A lot of them are going through mental health crisis where it's maybe it's drug related, maybe it's more emotional based or what have you.
Yeah, you could just be freaking out, just a panic attack. It just
absolutely.
The cops attack you and put you on the ground, and
people process things differently.
No. I mean, you gotta. I'm just saying. Because I know I'm quite sure you deal with a lot of mental. There's a lot of mental. Even. You can see, even you don't got to be an expert. You can see somebody's not
right. You recognize that, and
even a little conversation, you'll be able to tell, like, this guy's not really there.
Right, and it gets a little bit complicated because you may have someone, Pete, that is not completely 730.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I'm saying. Yeah,
they're not completely 730.
Right.
So the court can't order a 730 examination. They may just be going through some stuff.
Yeah, and
so as an attorney, I need to be able to recognize that, bring that to, the judge's attention, the prosecutor's attention, and say, listen, we're not throwing my guy or girl in jail or prison. No, they need treatment. So let's take that avenue. Let's explore what kind of treatment they need so that they don't end up back in the system, right? I'm all about helping.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Shit, I mean, if every lawyer would do that, that'd be great.
It's a shame. The ones who don't do it, it's a shame.
But I do agree that cops, period, should be trained to recognize if somebody has a mental illness or he has or even a nervous breakdown. You know what I'm saying? Because some people just freak out. You know what I'm saying? And shit like that. So and the cops freak out too and get you hurt. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't work out. So that's something that I wish that it will come to play soon. But I thought about that now, but I ain't really. But it's true. It's very important for them to at least recognize the shit. If we recognize it, I could be driving, or I could have a conversation with someone, and I could tell if he's a little bit off, or things is not right.
Yeah.
Or if he's stressed, you know what I'm saying? Or you could tell, you know what I'm saying?
So and people are saying or doing certain, like, Pete, we filed a federal case out of state, and basically our guy was going through a mental health crisis, and he barricaded himself behind a door in a basement, and he was yelling things to the cops like, shoot me, you're not saying shoot me unless you're going through something. So the police officers, instead of waiting and exercising a reasonable amount of patience, calling in the right personnel, they didn't. They busted through the door, and before you know it, they were shooting my guy. And so we filed a federal civil rights lawsuit, right? Of course, they're arguing, well, we acted appropriately because their standard is the objective reasonableness standard. That's the standard. Whenever we file these lawsuits, the courts have to determine whether or not the officer or officers acted objectively reasonable.
Right.
And a lot of times they favor the officers because they're saying, well, they got to make quick second decisions. And our position is, it's a choice. They're choosing to put the badge on. They're choosing to put the uniform on. There has to be some level of accountability if they drop the ball. But it's just why you have, and I won't get into it too much, there's a lot, but you have this thing called qualified immunity, Pete, which basically protects officers from being held personally liable for their actions. So what does that mean? We can't go after cops personally. So the only thing left is to go after the municipality for which they work for, which is like NYPD, the city, or any city municipality, corrections, right? Because a lot goes down in corrections, MTA, whatever it is.
Right.
So we can't go after the officers personally or the COs personally.
Right.
We can only sue the entity they work for. So, that's the only level of accountability civilly, right? We're trying to bring, some type of at least a financial gain for the family members of these individuals, maybe who were killed. That's the only thing left.
And they ain't really, and they was innocent. They ain't really doing that.
Right. Exactly. You can't bring them back to life. People say, well, justice. I want justice. And the truth is, Pete, if that family member is not coming back to life, there really is no measure of true justice.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So
no.
The only thing left is accountability.
Yeah.
So that's what we fight for.
So that's what you've been working on too.
A lot of civil rights cases,
Wow.
and aside from the criminal, because what happens is it starts out as a criminal case, and then in many instances, their civil rights have been violated. So we do both. We defend them, and then we also file civil rights lawsuits, either on a state or federal level.
Okay.
Because if there's wrongdoing, people need to be held accountable for it.
Do you know anything about the Jersey laws? Are the same like in New York, or like more or less the same? Or?
Well, not on a state level. I mean, I practice on a state level as well. I primarily practice on a state level in New York, but I'm allowed to go into other states under what you call pro hac vice, which is basically when another state jurisdiction will allow me to step into their jurisdiction and represent a client. Okay. So I've done that before. The laws are not too different. They're not too different. A lot of them have either the same or very similar elements of the crime. What you do find different sometimes is the sentencing structure in different states. But they're not so different that I haven't been able to handle it. Now, on a federal level, of course, across the nation, the federal laws are the same.
Right.
It doesn't matter what jurisdiction you're in federally; it's all the same.
Yeah. Jamie, for those individuals that like going to court, don't hear from their lawyers, going through that kind of vibe, and the lawyers giving them a hard time. Like, what are the things that individuals could do?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say, it's a frustrating. I can only imagine how frustrating that is,
I
right?
speak to a lot of guys on the island, and they like, oh, I haven't heard from my lawyer, man. I be calling him, he don't pick up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then he shows up to court, and I'm like, how long you been here? 2 years? What you here for, a body? I'm like, damn.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, shit, you got to get a hold of your lawyer.
Yeah. Obviously, the lawyer should be working closely with the clients. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some clients who are a little unrealistic, and they want to call their attorney every single day. Right. That you got to act within reason. I tell clients respectfully, there are other cases I'm working on as well that are just as important, right, as your case. The family members hire me. So the communication has to be within reason.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
But aside from that, yeah, no doubt, Pete, the attorney should be working closely with the client in terms of figuring out a right strategy. You have to have discussions about whether or not it's in the client's best interest to go to trial or take a deal. Not every case is worth going to trial. Some clients, Pete, they tell me, Santana, I'm not going to trial. Just give me the best deal possible. Other clients tell me, Santana, I'm not taking anything. We're going to trial. But, you can't do that effectively as an attorney if there's zero communication, right, between you and your client. Not to mention, Pete, you know, people are sitting either on Rikers Island or other, facilities, and no one wants to be locked up.
Oh, no.
No one wants to be locked up, being told what to do, where to do it, how you can do it, who you can do it with. No one wants that.
Right.
Especially if you're maintaining your innocence, right? And not that it matters, because I don't judge people. You know, I don't ask you, you're innocent or guilty.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the same quality representation from me no matter what. But when you're in there, that's a difficult thing. You're away from your families. Maybe you lost your job already. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
A lot of stuff come with that.
Yeah.
Life is at risk when you're in prison.
Life is at risk. You know, I can't even imagine.
So, yeah, I just, because I stay getting that. I go in and be like, damn, I ain't get a hold of my. So, could they get rid of their lawyer?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a judge may limit that. If there are some individuals who, no matter what, are never satisfied with their attorney.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
You know, then that's whether it's a private attorney or appointed attorney, right?
Yeah.
So you have some individuals who are telling the judge, I want a new lawyer, especially if it's a legal aid. Right. I want another lawyer. And the judge at the beginning is going to be a little bit patient.
Right.
But, I've been in the courtroom maybe waiting for a case to be called, and I'm observing a lawyer now assign someone, maybe the third and fourth, attorney. And the judge is like, look, at some point this is going to stop, right? That's a client who may be unreasonable. But generally speaking, I'm hired by a lot of other individuals or clients who have had other private attorneys who were not happy with their private attorneys. Okay. But by all means, you can fire your private attorney and hire, someone else. Yeah. But you can't be, for example, in the middle of trial, right? Or you can't even, some judges may let you get away with it if it's right before trial starts, but some judges may not allow that because the judges want to keep things moving. They want to keep the flow.
Shit, I don't see why. A motherfucker got to be really crazy if you never get a hold of your lawyer and all of a sudden go to trial with him.
Yeah, right. You shouldn't be waiting.
You really not great.
Nah. If you're waiting until trial and then you're complaining about your attorney, what have you been doing this whole time?
Yeah.
But then the other problem is this, Pete. A lot of people can't afford to get rid of their. Maybe they had one shot to hire a private attorney, and maybe they can't afford to do it again. So now they're stuck with either staying with that attorney or asking the judge to get rid of that attorney and now bring on legal aid. But I tell you, a judge typically is not going to let a private attorney off the hook unless there is a serious conflict of interest. Right. And the judge can clearly see these two are not getting along. I need to let this private attorney off the case.
Yeah, we need to get this out. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So a little bit about before we close out, where they could, where you could be located, you know what I mean? Anything that you might want to, reach, anything you could, any message you want to just deliver, anything you want to give out to the youth, anybody out there, you know what I mean? And as well where they can find you at, and we could do that.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of the youth, that's the future. Right.
Absolutely.
And I understand, some of your viewers and listeners may be in a situation where they're going through some things right now. And this is one of the reasons why I love to give back. I regularly mentor young individuals. I go to schools to speak to individuals and kids.
That's right.
Because, number one, we should always give back.
Absolutely.
But secondly, they need to see that there are certain things that are possible. Some of them, all they have is hope. But it makes a difference when they can actually see and speak to someone who is maybe doing something they want to be doing, or someone who went through something and is now saying, you know what, I went through it. That was a different part of my life, but now this is how I turn my life around.
This is how we're doing it.
This is how we're doing it now, right? So that makes a difference. So to those young listeners or any listeners, Pete, I say stay positive, keep your head up.
That's right.
Reach out. If you need help, there's no shame in reaching out and saying, I need help.
Absolutely.
Right? Yep. Especially as young men, we have this whole machismo thing, and we think we can't reach out.
Talk to them.
Oh, we're not cool, or we come off as looking weak. No. Reach out. There are people out there who will offer you support, guidance.
On any level, reach out.
Yes, on any
mental level.
Right.
Because that's definitely one. People scared of, to express their mental. They might be going through something. They know they're not right.
Yeah.
They won't even tell nobody.
Man, they won't say it, and they live in the darkness and everything's a secret. Please reach out. And then, Pete, in terms of how I can be reached, I'm very accessible. People reach out actually a lot to me on social media. I mean, it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
But on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, everything is at Santana Law Firm.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Okay. At Santana Law Firm.
And then the website is www.santanalawpartners.com. And then the office number is 212-448-0055, Pete.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, Santana, I want to thank you so much, man, for coming through. Man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for having me.
We definitely going to be doing some things in the future. I'm going to be definitely, making our rounds in these different facilities. We're going to start off at Rikers Island. So, we talked about that, in the past. Yeah. So just know that I'm going to be reaching out. And,
Let's do it. Be
making our rounds, you
Yeah.
Go talk to these brothers, man, and try to get the island right. Anyway, with that being said, man, you already know it's your boy Pistol Pete. Thank you, Santana, once again for coming through.
Thank you, brother.
My brother, man,
My
appreciate
pleasure.
you. You already know it's your boy Pistol Pete, dog in the yard. You already know it's your boy Pistol Pete. Welcome back to Dog in the Yard. Today I got a youngster. Look, this is a youngster. This is a black Canadian. This is nice. It's a baby. I know they look ugly. Usually like little babies, when baby comes out, most of the time they are a little bit. You know what I mean? Anyway, with that being said, man, I want to thank Jaime Santana for coming through. Appreciate all the knowledge you gave, to all the young brothers out there. They need it, and I appreciate you, my brother. Definitely, man. Look forward to doing a lot of things with you. Appreciate you coming through, taking the time, and sharing your knowledge with us, man. And that's what it's about, man. Spreading that word. And with that being said, it's your boy Pistol Pete, dog in the yard. Let me get back this baby, man, before they jump on me.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
On today's segment of Know Your Rights, we're talking about an important concept in criminal law known as a prima facie case. This Latin phrase refers to the prosecution's evidence being enough to prove the basic elements of a crime, at first glance, or on its face. Now, this doesn't mean that the defendant is automatically guilty, but it means that the evidence is sufficient enough to move the case forward and requires the defendant to present a defense. The purpose of a prima facie case is to ensure that there is enough evidence to justify a trial. It prevents defendants from being dragged into lengthy court processes without sufficient cause. In preliminary hearings or pretrial motions, judges assess whether the prosecution has met the standard. If the judge determines that a prima facie case has been established, then the trial proceeds. If not, then the case can be dismissed. For example, a person is accused of theft. To establish a prima facie case of theft, the prosecution needs to provide evidence showing that the defendant took the property that didn't belong to them, but with the intent to permanently deprive the owner of it. If the prosecution can present credible evidence for these elements, they have made a prima facie case. For another example, in a murder case, the prosecution must show evidence of the following to make a prima facie case: that a person has died, that the death was caused by a criminal act, and that the defendant is connected to that act. This might include presenting witness testimony, forensic evidence, or other forms of proof. It is important to note that establishing a prima facie case does not mean proving the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That higher standard is reserved for the trial itself. Instead, it's just about showing that there is enough evidence to proceed, ensuring that the case is not baseless or without merit. That's it for tonight's discussion. Stay informed. Know your rights.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.
S.H.U, nigga. We the live in S.H.U, nigga. You free the guys, we them guys, nigga. You dumping or you dipping, nigga.